Hi, once again, it's Will Henry here in the workshop. So I'm just getting ready to cut and crown these barrels that I put on, the 375 Ruger and the 223 Remington on a Kimber, and then a couple of bench rush barrels of my own. So prior to cutting and crowning, I screw them on tight and mark them, and I still just use stamps. There you go, and I just line them up with masking tape, and the spacing's done by eye, and generally speaking, it works out okay. So I'll demonstrate here. Because I can't remember if I've demonstrated it before or not. That's it's one of the beauties of getting older. You know, you get to relive each day like it's a whole new start, you know. So anyway, as you can see, I put a couple pieces of a couple layers of masking tape on the barrel, and I try to line up with the printing on the receiver. And this is the reason I got to turn it up good and tight, because this is where I want it to orient when I'm done. I've seen guys screw them up by hand and then try to guess at where it's going to end up, and end up with the marking half obscured by the stock. So anyway, this hopefully avoids that. So when I do this, I stamp backwards. That is, I start with my last figure and work backwards from there. I have an easier time judging my spacing if I do it that way. And so I start off with, in this case, the year 2025. So I start off with the 5. Then the 2. And the 0. Whoops. And another 2. Then I'll stick my initials on there. In the interest of brevity, I'm just going with a BL on this one. So there's the L. B isn't quite, didn't have the punch quite level there. That's better. And now I've got to do the Ruger. G. U. R. And back to the numbers again. 3. So when you're doing this, there's kind of a knack to it, I guess, and some numbers and letters have to be hit with a little more force than others. For instance, the 7 marks pretty easily. A 1 marks very easily. The 5, you have to give a little better whack to get the same depth. So, and that's something that just comes with practice. And so if a person's going to do this, get a set of stamps and practice on an old piece of barrel or old piece of anything for that matter, and pretty soon it becomes easier. Here, well, for the most part, my spacing's okay. One fellow gunsmith that I know used a piece of tape measure, a broken piece of tape measure like so, and he taped that onto the barrel, and then he was able to use the marks to help him to align, to get his spacing. Another friend of mine made a jig that spaced the letters out. And the only problem with the jig, and really it wasn't generally a problem at all, is that you're depending on your stamp maker to have the numbers in the middle of the stamp. And generally speaking, they are, or at least close enough that it doesn't, that it's not readily noticeable, and it works out well. So a jig like that is not a bad idea. And if I remember right, he used a 3/8 bolt, and it just depended how many turns you took your spacing. And I think generally speaking, his spacing was 2 turns for between letters, and then for a gap he'd do 4 turns, and so on. But anyway, I just haven't had enough ambition to ever make myself a jig, and I'm able to get away with using the masking tape, so that's what I do. So there you go, barrel marking 101. So I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to go ahead and well, actually, the first thing I'm going to do is cut the extractor cut in the Kimber barrel, and then I'll do the cutting and crowning. I'm not going to show the extractor cut. I've shown that, I know, at least a few times, and this one is exactly the same as all the other Kimbers that I've done. So anyway, there we go. A short, sweet video, and so until next time, this is Will Henry, out.